Hello, kind people. This is Dmitry. Let's have a look at this puzzle. This is called Naked Attraction, and it is by Hawk. And this is the third time this year that we get a second puzzle in the same calendar year by the same setter. So we had two paddocks, we had two apts, and now we have the second Hawk. The first Hawk was probably the puzzle that actually started this whole series of recordings. It was the absolutely brilliant puzzle on freeze groups, which I think for me is still my personal favorite puzzle of the year. So if I were to vote for the Escapade Gold Cup, I think even despite the absolute stunners by Eck and Saber and Twin and the first Paddock and Arcadia and Apt, the first Apt. I mean, we had a fantastic year, but probably even then, I'd still probably vote for the first Hawk. And now there is another one. So the grid looks much more traditional, so let's have a look at the preamble. Although it's not Hawk's choice of evening entertainment, solvers must recreate a startling idiomatic scene. Clothing removed from an extra word that needs removing to enable solving in each of 37 clues forms two cryptic clues to the key players, each 5 letters. After entering the answers with the central cell left empty, solvers must replace 8 letters in pairs of symmetrically opposite cells to make new words, one of which must be embellished with a simple drawing that extends into the central cell. Oh, interesting. I just realized that I probably have misunderstood how that works. Okay. 7 thematic words in straight lines must then be highlighted, 34 cells in total. Okay, I'm glad I'm recording this because I might have just, otherwise I could have submitted what I think would be marked as a wrong entry. We'll get there in a second. So the main thing about this puzzle, I solved it on paper, and it's just very, very, very hard clues. So the clues are either normal or you just have to remove a word from them. So it's nothing too obscure in the manner of, say, previous week's consonantal equivalence, but the clues are not easy at all. So this time I did mark down the order in which I solved them for the first maybe 6 of them. So let me try and give you some of them. The very first one was, I'm trying to get, oh yeah, that one. The very first one was this. And I was quite lucky in that that was just the normal one. So you cast or anagram disheartened Dreyfus, like that, and you get this word, which means soap opera. The next one was this. Supply trace for common geranium. Turns out that one of the meanings of the word stray, and so supply here should be read as supply, and so this is again an anagram indicator. And one of the meanings of the word stray is common, and so this becomes then an extra word. And then I went to woodworkers assembled one's basic bits, 28 across. Here I thought, again, as you can see, my strategy is typically hunt for full anagrams. Because unlike when I'm trying to solve the daily cryptics without a dictionary, here, as soon as I see an anagram, I just throw it into the anagram solver and hopefully out comes the answer. Or it doesn't if I identified it wrongly as an anagram. But here I didn't. So I took this out because I needed 8 letters, and I thought assembled this plus this is 8 letters, so it could be right. And indeed, it's the word ebonists, who are the woodworkers, because they work with ebony. Okay, and so on. I mean, I guess the next one was this, which was a hidden. So anagrams and hiddens, these are the things I'm hunting for in the beginning. And you have to get rid of organic, and then riot is some weird word for farmer. I think farmer rather than farmer's part. So I think part is just a hidden indicator. Could be wrong though. I mean, what else there were? Plod translator tops impromptu own goal, so we get rid of this. Own goal is OG, and we get trog, which is to walk slowly to plod. So I think I should just jump to the end game, especially since I just realized I haven't completed the end game, so we'll do it together. But one thing you realize very quickly when solving is that so clearly the preamble tries to mislead us. There are some innuendos, we're talking about clothing being removed and not Hawk's choice of evening entertainment, and the whole thing means is called naked attraction, and so it sort of all suggests sort of one type of entertainment, and of course it has nothing to do with it. But instead, so clothing removed from extra words, so we need to take first and last letters of extra words and read those as two cryptic clues. And initially, but hopefully, luckily I very quickly realized my mistake here. I was trying to read them. I thought that I just need to take, the first and then the last, and then concatenate all those into this one long string, and then in that one long string there will be a first clue somewhere and the second clue somewhere. And that doesn't work, and you realize it fairly quickly when you realize that GM is not the most common neighboring letters, but it becomes, once you solve several successive clues and you realize that you get an absolute nonsense out of it, at some point you realize that you need to just treat separately, and the first letters would give you one clue and one meaningful sequence of letters, and the last letters will give you another one. And then you can start backtracking from this when you are still solving and you don't know how to solve some clues and you don't even know what are the extra words there. You can sometimes guess the extra words from these messages. And so eventually you get to the complete grid, which looks like this. I hope I didn't make a mistake. I marked in red the clues that I still didn't parse when I finished solving. Since then, I had another look at them and I parsed 4 out of 5 of them. But this just shows that how difficult the clues were here. And retrospectively, maybe even these are not the hardest ones. But somehow I couldn't parse them. So this one is stats, and it basically is just the double definition, briefly copies and tabulated facts. It's not the most obvious definition for briefly copies, but if you look in Chambers, you will find that stats are unlike, I don't have Chambers on my laptop, so I have to read it off my phone. So stat is a statistic, which is this thing, but then also it's short for photostat, and photostat is a photographic apparatus for making facsimiles of manuscripts, drawings. I'm not sure how to pronounce facsimile. This is how we say it in Russian, so probably not how you say it in English. And it's a facsimile. How do you pronounce it? Facsimile. Maybe that's how you pronounce it, actually. So it is a copy. And because stats is a brief version of photostats. So, and the puzzle was full of this really weird double definitions where you get an obscure definition and an even more obscure definition. And that's not easy. So Swedish brownie, So brownie is a type of gremlin, goblin, or something like helpful domestic creature of sorts. And so the Swedish one is called Nisse. And so Nis, so you write it as Nisse, but you pronounce it as Nis. And Nis, spelled like this, is an old form of isn't. Or maybe it's not even spelled like this, but it could be... Yeah, I think it's just a homophone. So Nis, that's spelled like this, sounds exactly the same as Nis, that's spelled like that. And this one means isn't, and it's an archaic version of it. So there's another one. Woodsman pruning for compound. So clove is an extra word here. Woodsman is a forester, and you get rid of for. And this was hard. All red is something I've seen before in crosswords, but obviously only in crosswords. All red means on British soil exclusively. That's in Chambers, and it comes from, I guess, red on the maps, British territory on British maps marked as red. So it's not also on Soviet soil exclusively. Yeah, it's an obsolete one, and it says, yeah, exclusively on British territory from the conventional coloring of maps. Well, and the way it works is universal is all, and again, apparently, one of the old words for rubbish is red. Never heard of it. So, and the puzzle is just full of those. This is just a few examples. But once you do that, and you read the first letters of the extra words, you could get marches could be passing new light aircraft. This is what you get from the first letters, and from the last letters you get love to recall clip of wardrobe malfunction. And so these are the two cryptic clues, so let's solve them. So love to recall clip of wardrobe malfunction. So to solve this, we just need to write wardrobe malfunction. And since it says clip, to recall clip of this, so it's a reverse hidden, and the flame is love. So our second word is flame. And now the first one is marches could be passing new light aircraft. Marches could be is months. So marches is an example of a month. And so passing new means we need to ignore N, and we get moths. And these are light aircraft, but also, of course, we now have moths and flame, and that, and it is a clearly, you know, now we realize what it's all about. So now we need to, so what do we need to do? Wow, the rain is really strong outside. I hope it doesn't affect the sound quality. So now we need to replace 8 letters in pairs of symmetrically opposite cells to make new words, and then one of which must be embellished with a simple drawing that extends into the central cell. So now we need to do it together. So the only thing I noticed so far is that, so I realized that this probably has to be a candle. And indeed the word bouge, that's how it's pronounced, because it's a French one, but it's spelled like this, is a wax candle. And so I guess what we need to do is to put around it something like this, embellished by a simple drawing. It's a tricky one, right? Because I'm not sure. Let's read it again. One of which must be embellished with a simple drawing that extends into the central cell. I mean, I really think that it has to be, you know, something like that. And, you know, and some fire here. of a candle. But I think we have to, it says which extends into the final cell. So it is not only in the final cell, so we have to draw a candle around it. I think that's correct. And now we need to find 7, so we need to highlight 7 more entries, 34 cells in total. So these are all will be moths, I guess. So let's see, the symmetric one to this is here. So what sort of moth is that? Is it Ven something moth? Let's find out. Veneer moth. Yeah, there is a veneer moth. A grass moth from its marking. Okay, fine. So that becomes an E. That becomes, oh, sorry, let's change them. And that becomes an E, and let's highlight this. So I guess it will be race. Okay, so now we need to find Luna, I think is another moth. Let's check. That I vaguely remember. Luna, yeah, it is a moth. Okay, so that will give me, oops, nope. So that's another one. So I guess we now need to change this one. So what is that? AQ something O? No. Does it go in the other direction? O something Q something? No. Is it just 2 letters then? So what could it be? Oh, that's intriguing. Okay, so we have to change this letter to create a certain moth. And it either has Q... Okay, we don't really know in which direction it goes. That's a bit annoying. Q something O. O something Q. No. Did I make a mistake? So, because I guess we need them in all directions. So, okay, let's try and get some more. Let's try and get some more. Maybe I'll have to pause here because it will be boring if I just troll through my phone, because this is how I'm going to do it. Let me pause this. So I'm back. Turns out that although Eeyore was not an entry in Chambers with the meaning moth, but Eeyore moth is an entry in Chambers. So I was right there. And the others are carpet moth, Edgar moth, and of course we have to read them all towards the flame because that's what the expression is. Owlet moth, veneer moth, and magpie moth. The last one obviously makes me wonder whether this puzzle was ever intended for the magpie rather than the listener. Yeah, so I guess this is what you have to submit. I wonder whether I need to somehow further kind of emphasize my candle, but I think that probably should do. So what do I think about this puzzle? I think the clues were very obscure and very hard, and the end game was reasonably straightforward. I really enjoyed having these 2 cryptic clues, so it was a pleasing end game, but definitely, not, as with the other 2 setters who had their second puzzles of the year, I very much still preferred the first one. So, and for Hawk, that's also the case, where the first one I think is an absolutely beautiful one. And this is a nice puzzle, but nothing too special. Also slightly annoying that the kind of the rays from the candle that sort of form this moth paths are not symmetric, but I can live with that. So thank you so much for watching, and let's see what the next week brings. Bye.